The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected.
They have tremendous bad blood. It's really is what is holding up, I think, a settlement.
Seeking peace, President Trump hosts President Zelensky. Just how close are we to seeing another ceasefire agreement? Plus, escalating tensions in Chicago, new protests against federal agents, and states away, who has been detained in the first arrest linked to Antifa? And then limiting AI on Facebook. The new controls Meta is offering parents to safeguard teens online. Good evening. I'm Taylor Murray. Welcome to the National News Desk, America's News Now. Right now, President Donald Trump is on his way to Palm Beach, Florida, where he'll spend the weekend at his Mar-a-Lago estate. Earlier this afternoon, President Trump hosted Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky at the White House, who asked for America's help to ramp up military pressure on Vladimir Putin. Now, this comes on the heels of Trump announcing plans for a second one-on-one meeting with Putin, potentially in a matter of weeks. National correspondent Atra El-Nashar has more.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's third trip to the White House this year comes with some big asks. That President Trump agrees to provide Ukraine with Tomahawk missiles and air defense systems.
We understand what we need to push Putin to negotiation table.
Zelensky also looking to secure agreements for joint drone production as a potential exchange.
Ukraine has such thousands of our production drones, but we don't have Tomahawks. That's why we need Tomahawks. But United States is a very strong production, and the United States has Tomahawks and other missiles, very strong missiles, but they can have our thousands of drones.
They make a very good drone. I mean, drone warfare has really come to the fore over the last couple of years because of this war.
Tomahawks are long-range cruise missiles that can evade radar and the enemy's defenses. Earlier this year, U.S. forces used 30 of them during Operation Midnight Hammer to destroy Iranian nuclear facilities. The day before his White House visit, Zelensky held meetings with leaders of American defense companies Lockheed Martin and Raytheon.
You know, we need Tomahawks for the United States of America, too. We have a lot of them, but we need them. I mean, we can't deplete for our countries.
The president even brought the prospect up to Russian President Vladimir Putin during a 2-hour phone call Thursday.
I did actually say, would you mind if I gave a couple of thousand Tomahawks to your opposition? I did say that to him. I said it just that way. He didn't like the idea.
We're learning more about Trump and Putin's planned meeting in Budapest. Trump says it may occur in just a couple of weeks, and he's also leaving the door open to the possibility that Zelensky would come, but that seems highly unlikely. When Trump was asked what he'll do if Putin does not agree to peace at this meeting, Trump said, well, let's see what happens, adding he thinks Putin will agree to peace. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
We are now on day 17 of the government shutdown, and it will last until Monday as Senate Majority Leader John Thune has sent the upper chamber home for the weekend. Democrats claim Republicans have gone radio silent and are just vacationing instead of working on a solution. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says his party remains united in their demands for an extension of health care tax credits to reopen the government.
So House and Senate Democrats are going to continue to hold firm as it relates to a basic common sense position that when we enact spending bills, we should be helping the American people, not hurting them.
Senator Thune replied on X today saying this, quote, I am willing to sit down with Democrats to discuss the growing unaffordability and unsustainability of Obamacare. It's a system they created, but I'm happy to hear them out. Heck, I'm even willing to give them a vote, but there's one condition. End the Schumer shutdown. I will not negotiate under hostage conditions, nor will I pay a ransom, period. And on Monday, the Senate returns, and Politico reports Majority Leader Thune could bring legislation to the floor that would pay essential employees who are, of course, required to work during the shutdown, including TSA workers and air traffic control operators, as well as active members of the military. It does need 60 votes to advance, meaning that at least 7 Democrats will need to support it. Meanwhile, millions of people are expected to gather nationwide tomorrow for No Kings protest. Organizers say more than 2,500 events are planned across all 50 states. Their statement says it sends a clear and unmistakable message. Our country will not be ruled by fear or force, they say. Groups like the ACLU and the American Federation of Teachers are participating, among others. Speaker Mike Johnson likened the message being sent by the rally organizers to the actions of Democrats on Capitol Hill.
They're cheering on Chuck Schumer's decision to close the government, and their lead organizer said this is his words, not mine, quote, "He hasn't surrendered yet. I call that progress." Maybe that's what led Chuck Schumer to say that every day of the shutdown gets better for us. That's what he said. Since then, Democrats have had their 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th opportunities to reopen the government, and they have obeyed the mob.
Now, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said yesterday he plans to attend and speak at the No Kings rally in Washington, D.C. tomorrow afternoon. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said today tomorrow's rally is as American as apple pie and will be a display of what patriotism looks like. You're taking a look now at Chicago, where the Trump administration has just made an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court to allow National Guard deployment, which, of course, has been blocked by lower courts. This comes as a face-off between demonstrators and authorities has led to more than a dozen people being detained today. Illinois State Police were seen pushing protesters back as the crowd gathered at the immigration facility in Broadview, Illinois. The location has been the site of frequent, sometimes violent clashes between federal agents and protesters. Fencing that had previously surrounded the facility was removed. The Justice Department has filed the first terrorist charges against Antifa suspects after that brutal attack and attempted murder. A grand jury indicted Cameron Arnold and Zachary Evans on multiple charges, including providing material support for terrorism and attempting to murder federal officers. Authorities say they were part of the armed group who ambushed that ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas in July, where one officer was shot in the neck. The U.S. military has seized survivors after carrying out the latest strike on a suspected drug boat in the Caribbean. A defense official telling the Associated Press the survivors were picked up by the U.S. military and are being held on a Navy vessel. It was not immediately clear what would be done with them. It does, of course, follow a series of recent strikes targeting alleged drug smuggling boats from Venezuela. This appears to mark the first time, however, there were survivors reported after an attack. Meanwhile, the U.S. military commander who oversaw the strikes and the overall escalating U.S. military operations in the Caribbean is retiring. Admiral Alvin Halsey announcing his retirement from the U.S. Navy in a statement posted to social media Thursday. Halsey said he is retiring after 37 years in the Navy in mid-December, just over a year after he was first promoted to lead Southern Command, or SOUTHCOM. SOUTHCOM's area of responsibility includes much of Central and South America, as well as the Caribbean Sea. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced he is withholding $40 million in federal funding from California. The announcement coming after Duffy warned California back in September it had 30 days to comply with requiring truck drivers to be proficient in English. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris has more.
Last month, Duffy announced new rules for issuing commercial driver's licenses, including English language requirements for all truck drivers. The deadline to implement those rules just passed. Duffy saying California, the only state not to do so. In a social media post this week, Duffy announcing he's withholding $40 million in California funding for not implementing new English language requirements for all truckers.
All the states have complied, but one. That would be California. Gavin Newsom cares more about illegal migrants than he does about the safety of his citizens or the citizens around the country.
Duffy announcing these new rules amid the Trump administration's illegal immigration crackdown, but also after a series of recent fatal crashes, including this summer in Florida when an illegal migrant truck driver who had a California commercial license killed 3 people while trying to make a U-turn in a semi-truck.
These are the kind of risks that some of these drivers take when they don't understand the rules, they don't understand our culture, but they also don't understand if a crash happens, how to communicate with law enforcement.
Duffy says since June, over 6,000 truck drivers have been pulled off the road for failing an English proficiency test. Last week, DHS announcing the arrest of an illegal alien driving an 18-wheeler with a CDL issued to no name.
New York State has been giving out licenses illegally to illegal aliens with, literally, it says no name given on the driver's license. So
during an exclusive interview with Sinclair's WBFF, Duffy also commenting on the nationwide No Kings protest scheduled for this weekend, expressing concern about Antifa participating and those backing the movement.
I'm all about free speech. I'm all about protests. It's the great American way. I am concerned about who's funding this, who's paying for it, who's organizing it.
Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom's office did issue a response to the funding cut. A spokesperson writing in part, quote, "The reality is simple. Commercial driver's license holders in California had a fatal accident rate nearly 40% lower than the national average." I'm Jeff Harris reporting from Washington.
Coming up, the former Trump national security advisor pleads not guilty over his handling of classified information. What's next in the indictment of John Bolton as he turns himself in today? Then a shocking arrest out of Louisiana. How police believe the suspect is tied to the October 7th terror attack in Israel over 2 years ago. Plus, a look back at last night's heated New York City mayoral debate. The topics that sparked fiery exchanges between the candidates. Stay with us. We're back in 90 seconds. Another President Trump critic and former member of his administration is facing criminal charges after being indicted this week. National correspondent Matt Galka has the latest on the case against former National Security Advisor John Bolton.
Former National Security Advisor John Bolton appeared in front of a federal judge in Maryland, pleading not guilty to all 18 charges brought against him. Bolton was indicted on charges he mishandled classified information both during his time as an advisor in the first Trump administration and after.
Mr. Bolton, how are you feeling?
Bolton did not take questions when he left the courthouse. In a statement following the indictment, he said, "Now I have become the latest target in weaponizing the Justice Department to charge those he deems to be his enemies with charges that were declined before or distort the facts." The indictment alleges Bolton kept diary-like entries that contained national defense information classified up to the top secret SCI level and was using a personal email account to transmit material to relatives that didn't have security clearances.
I think he's, a bad person. I think he's a bad guy. Yeah, he's a bad guy. It's too bad, but that's the way it goes. That's the way it goes, right? That's the way it goes.
The charges come after two other Trump critics, former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James, have also been indicted. Analysts believe the case against Bolton has more legal merit, with more evidence after the Biden Justice Department started the investigation but declined to bring charges against Bolton.
a judge signed off on the search warrant at his house. In other words, that judge found probable cause that crimes had been committed as relates to the use of these classified documents. It looks like he was very loose with these documents, writing down what he did every day and then transmitting them over email and then keeping those documents lying around his house years after he's left government service.
The indictment also cites a hack of Bolton's personal email server in 2021 by Iran, saying Bolton told authorities about it at the time, but did not mention the potential for classified information on the server. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Meanwhile, Republican lawmakers are seeking a DOJ investigation of former special counsel Jack Smith. A group of senators led by Tennessee Marsha Blackburn say Smith improperly obtained their cell phone records when he was investigating Donald Trump in the election interference case. The senators say Smith operated with professional misconduct and are also seeking his disbarment from both New York and Tennessee. The Department of Justice has not commented on the request. Well, the FBI has arrested a Louisiana resident, Mahmoud al-Muhtadi, suspected of taking part in Hamas's terror attack on October 7, 2023. According to court documents, cell phone tower data placed al-Muhtadi in Israel near the Kfar Aza kibbutz, and one of the places that was ambushed by terrorists. The arresting affidavit claims records and recordings of intercepted phone calls show the suspect coordinated locations and weapons with other attackers. Muhtadi is also charged with traveling to the United States with a fraudulent visa. He arrived from Egypt in June of 2024. In the Middle East, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is expected to be back in the region on Sunday, discussing next steps in the Gaza peace plan. Phase 1 began on Monday, and tonight, Hamas handed over another body back to Israel. The search for the others continues, but Israel believes they know where the bodies are. They're talking about Hamas. Phase 2, if agreed upon, would see further IDF withdrawal from Gaza with more aid and reconstruction of the war-torn enclave. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is suing the Trump administration over large fees in the H-1B visa program. H-1B visas are meant for high-skilled jobs that companies find hard to fill, typically tech jobs. Now, last month, the Trump administration announced a $100,000 fee for new visa applications, saying employers are replacing American workers with cheaper talent overseas. The chamber says the change is illegal and will hurt employers. And the lawsuit asked the court to declare that President Trump exceeded his authority and to block government agencies from enforcing the fee. Well, Meta is working on new safety features to allow parents to monitor how their teens interact with its AI experiences. The company is building controls to give parents the option to turn off one-on-one chats with AI characters and even block certain characters. This comes after the FTC launched an inquiry into Meta and other tech companies over how AI chatbots can potentially negatively affect children. This rollout is planned for early next year. Ford is recalling more than 290,000 vehicles in the U.S. The company says the rear-view camera system may not display images properly in certain lighting conditions, which could increase the risk of a crash. So impacted models include certain 2020 through 2022 F-250 SD, F-350 SD, and F-450 SD vehicles. The automaker says they have not received any reports of accidents or injuries related to this recall, and vehicle owners can have this software issue fixed for free at a Ford dealership. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start with a Washington state Democratic lawmaker who regrets supporting soft-on-crime legislation.
Outside the Denny Juvenile Justice Center in Everett, State Representative Lauren Davis says she feels partly responsible for a recent spike in juvenile crime in her district. She noted those crimes in Linwood tripled over 2 years, up to 355 cases in 2024.
And these are my constituents who buried their babies. I mean, that is an irreversible consequence of choices that the state made and bills that I voted for.
She believes she made policy missteps in her early years at the state capitol by supporting laws she believes blocked interventions for youth who are at risk, truant, or who have behavioral health challenges.
The primary reason that I'm speaking out is because I want us to stop making things worse. I am not extremely optimistic that there would be the votes to support such a reversal.
$80 is a lot of money. I mean, that's a week's groceries.
William McKeel received this letter claiming to be from the Hamilton County Clerk's office demanding he pay $89.
So it looks official when you first glance at it, but when you look at it more, you can tell that it's not that official.
As the government shutdown looms, other residents won't be as eagle-eyed as he was.
Right now, with the government shutdown, we know it's a little tougher for people to check directly with any kind of government agency to make sure that something they're receiving is valid.
When you go to the FTC's website, this message appears, saying due to the government shutdown, we are unable to offer this website's services at this time.
You can certainly call us at Better Business Bureau or email us.
Ranging from fake letters from the Federal Trade Commission, insisting you owe money, to property scams, claiming to be from your local courthouse.
Anyone that's calling you, claiming to be with the IRS or other agencies, and then putting high pressure on you to share personal information, share payment information, those are huge red flags.
Worst nightmare.
What seemed like a Halloween prank turned into a nightmare for one Alexandria family.
It was just a blessing that I was in the house that day.
Shayla's been staying here with her mom and little brother temporarily.
I want to get you. Open the door.
That's her voice you can hear on the Ring doorbell camera.
Who is it? Open up the door before we make our way inside.
She asked the masked group of people to leave, but they don't.
I said Happy Halloween when they first came, asked them to get off the property. When they didn't, that's when I realized it wasn't a joke anymore. They tore the whole thing down.
Shayla showing us their next move in the backyard.
So they hopped on here, they came through there, and that's how they entered to get to our door to be able to knock on the back door.
Police eventually showed up to investigate. Why would they target your house?
I have no idea. That's why I'm not taking it lightly, and I just feel as if my mom's going to be in fear for a while because we don't know who it is.
Scary. All right, well, coming up, the first of 2 New York City mayoral debates has wrapped, and with less than a week until the next face-off, we are taking a look at the hot-button issues that had candidates throwing punches last night. The political world is watching the race for New York City mayor. With weeks to go, the race is heating up. Here's national correspondent Kayla Gaskins with more on last night's debate.
We are less than 3 weeks from Election Day.
A fiery debate Thursday in the race to be New York City's next mayor.
What I don't have in experience, I make up for in integrity.
Frontrunner Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic candidate and self-described Democratic socialist, faced some of his toughest questions yet.
Can you explain how you will make buses free?
Pressed repeatedly on how he'd fund what critics call the $10 billion in freebies he's promised to voters.
We're at time, though, but the question is how you'll make them free.
We will fund the revenue that would have otherwise been brought in from fares. I've put
How?
forward two proposals. The first is to raise taxes on the top 1% of New Yorkers.
We're going to move along, but I just want to point out to viewers that Governor Hochul has opposed raising the income tax.
The 33-year-old candidate has proposed free universal child care, rent freezes, and higher taxes on millionaires and corporations.
So tell New Yorkers tonight how you're going to pay for all of this.
Look, a lot of people have called even my campaign a non-starter when we first began.
Top challenger, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, calling Mamdani's rent freeze policy a half-baked idea.
Freeze the rent only postpones the rent, because then you have to have an increase to cover the costs. Otherwise, the building is going to go bankrupt. And it does nothing for the majority of renters who aren't in these rent-stabilized units.
Cuomo, though, taking heat as well for his own record as governor.
You resigned from office amid sexual harassment and COVID-related scandals.
It was a political report, and that there was no basis to it.
Another hot topic, the Israel-Hamas war, and what has come across as Mamdani's hesitancy to condemn the Islamic terror group.
You were asked if Hamas should lay down its weapons. Some say they found your answer confusing. You said, quote, I don't really have opinions about the future of Hamas.
Of course, I believe that they should lay down their arms.
With less than 3 weeks to go, polls still show Mamdani leading, but Cuomo gaining ground among moderate Democrats. And there's still another debate next week. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins, reporting for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
It's a stargazer's delight, and all you have to do is look up when you can expect to see the most shooting stars next week. Coming up. Stargazers are in for quite a treat next week. This Tuesday, in the wee hours of the morning, an annual meteor shower produced by remnants of Halley's Comet peaks after dark on Monday. The American Meteor Society says the Orionid meteor shower runs through November 7th. It also coincides with a new moon, meaning there won't be as much moonlight interfering with the view of shooting stars. And the weather still has to cooperate, but experts say you can expect to see as many as 20 shooting stars per hour during the Orionid's peak. That does it for this edition of the National News Desk. I'm Taylor Murray. Thanks for watching.